Hi boys and girls, welcome back to art, and I hope you got finished decorating your cereal box. Remember, we were recycling a cereal box and using it for art as opposed to throwing it away. And so now I have finished mine, and hopefully you got yours done. Have lots of color, had the opportunity to play with color, and this was just using crayons. Like I said, I'm trying to use materials that you guys have at home. So now we're going to get started actually trying to assemble our sketchbooks that we are creating. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut off all these little tabs that we have left on here because we don't want those on there. It's going to make it look messy. And the nice thing about this is that it has little lines all down it, right where the fold is, that you can use to cut that off. So I'm going to slow down and I'm going to make sure that I am doing a really good job of cutting those off, and make sure that I am not cutting too fast and then making it a mess. And when I'm done, I'm going to make sure I throw all these away so that I don't leave them on the table or make a mess for mom and dad. So make sure when you're done that you throw away your trash and clean up after yourself so that your workspace is nice and clean. So I'm going to finish cutting these out, and I want you to cut off your tabs and get that done so we can start our next step. I have finished cutting out, and I have no more tabs left on my book. Now in this book I made it a little bit different because I actually cut down more on my book here, but I decided for you guys to make it a little bit easier, maybe that we would leave it with it being the shape it is, and we're going to actually fold it. But it's gonna look probably more like a book, like a thick book or a binder. And that's okay, boys and girls, because sketchbooks come in all different kinds. And we're going to create it this way, and hopefully it'll work for you. So that way, if you wanna add more pages, you can later. And if you decide you wanna flatten it or cut it down to something like this, then you can do that too. But I figured this might be a little bit easier than having to actually cut down the box and make it fit to how you want it. So this is actually just kind of creating a binder-like shape. So now I have a few items here. I actually have a thumbtack that I'm going to use. If you don't have one of these, boys and girls, have a parent help you create holes. You can even probably punch holes with a hole puncher or find another way to do it. But even this, you might want to have a parent help. I did this because it's easier for a kid to do, and it's not going to hurt you. Also, I have 10 sheets of white printer paper here, but if you want to use notebook paper or drawing paper or something else, then you can. Like I said, this is your notebook, and you can kind of make it work for you. I know a lot of you have notebook paper at home, so that might be easier. So I'm going to actually take a few of these, and I'm going to fold them in half. So I have it horizontal right now, which means my paper's long this way instead of vertical like this. And so I have it horizontal, and I'm going to take the left side and fold it in half to the right side, and I'm going to press down and make that crease right there. And I'm going to do that with my other papers. I just didn't want to fold them all together because sometimes with 10 sheets of paper that's a little bit harder to do. So again, I'm going to crease my papers down. And so right in the middle where it opens, I'm going to slide those other papers in there. And I'm going to actually take my thumbtack now, and not putting my finger behind it, I'm going to hold this. And this is why I say you might need a parent to help you, because it might be that you need help because it's hard to, or you can do a couple at a time and poke a hole right where that crease is, and I'm going to poke it through. And then I can also grab up my other ones if it's too hard to do all of them together. But I need to make sure that when I put them together that I really match it up. So now I already have part of my hole, but I'm going to put them together, and I'm going to punch that hole through so that it goes all the way through to the other side. So, and I'm going to do that again right here in this crease, and it should poke through like this. Like I said, if you need help, ask a parent. And then I'm going to take my book here, and I'm actually going to put it, so here's the front right here, but when I flip it, my front is over here now like a cover of a book. This is the back of my book. So it's just like if you were opening a book from left to right, I'm going to have that in there. for right now, because I can add more later, I'm gonna add them to the top. So what I'm gonna do is right here on this bottom crease, you can see my thumbtack right there coming through. I'm gonna poke a hole coming through here, but then I'm also going to poke a hole where my other one was, and I wanna make sure I don't move it. So I'm gonna hold this one, put it back through this one. Miss Joff dropped hers. And I'm gonna poke it through, but then I'm gonna come through and I'm also gonna poke this one through so that it comes through to the other side. So you can see that right here, that it's coming through to the other side. And I did it over here so that when I go to put my book together, it's gonna be, I can bind it. Binding is when, this is called the bind of a book, and that's where you put your book together and the pages are usually glued or sewn together. All right, boys and girls, so now I've grabbed a needle, and you will need one of these, and I've grabbed some string. This is not thread. This is one of those strings. It's embroidery strings, and they're like 57 cents or 50 cents like at Walmart, and they come in a whole bunch of different colors. You can use whatever color you want. I'm using this one so that I can bind my book with my sketchbook, and I'm going to take my string and I'm going to put it through the eye of the needle. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put it through the eye. You do not want to use yarn. If you do use yarn, then you're going to want to make sure that your holes are bigger than this, because if not, it won't go through. So I'm actually going to come through on the back side of my book. So remember, my holes are right here and right here. So I'm actually going to put my needle through that hole, but then I'm also going to take my papers and I'm going to put my needle through both so that you can see I'm putting my papers together with my book. And I'm pulling that string all the way through, but I'm gonna leave a long piece of string at the end so that I can tie them together. And so now I'm gonna take my needle and I'm gonna come through and stick it through my other side of my papers like this, and I'm gonna pull it all the way through, boys and girls, so that it goes across the inside of my pages right here. So then I still have to come through this hole right here on my book, my cover. So I'm gonna take that needle and I'm gonna poke it through, and I'm gonna pull it all the way through, boys and girls, except for until I feel it getting tight. So you can see it right here. I still need to pull that string tight so that it's but remember, I need to have this string at the end and I need this string. So when I pull it, I'm gonna make sure that I hold both ends. And see, when I come through later, I'm gonna come and cut this off, and I'm going to actually tie this string down. Now, if you can find another way to do this and you wanna be creative and come up with another way, then you're more than welcome to do that, boys and girls. And you can see that I'm just holding it here so that I can create my knot. You might want to have someone hold it for you if you can't do it this way. Miss Shop's just trying to do it on her own here. And I'm going to tie it. You can tie it in a bow. You can tie it in a knot. You can even braid it some. Be creative with it. So I have my book tied here, but I'm going to go ahead too and tie it in a double knot just because I don't want it to come undone and all my beautiful artwork and my work is falling out. So now I've created a nice pretty like binder or sketchbook that I can keep all my artwork in just like this, and I can make sketches and I can close it and keep it with me. And this is a lot of times where artists start their big artwork and they start it in a sketchbook to get some ideas, and this is where you guys can draw and sketch and come up with your different ideas and keep them to yourself or show them to Miss Shop or show them to other people. But now you have a sketchbook, and I can always come back in and keep adding in pages because I left it kind of thick. I hope you had fun, boys and girls. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to email and let me know that you need help. Bye, boys and girls.